Greenland is not a destination you simply visit. It is a threshold you cross. Out in the middle of the ocean lies a landmass nearly 3 times the size of France, yet home to only about 50,000 people. There are no highways stitching towns together, no easy routes that promise certainty. Here, movement depends on dog sleds, boats, helicopters, and on the permission of wind, ice, and light. Often called the frozen heart of the Northern Hemisphere, Greenland's ice sheet is more than a silent wilderness. It is a living force, influencing the planet's climate rhythm and shaping coastlines far beyond the Arctic. Cracks open like turquoise veins across ancient ice. Glaciers thunder as they break apart, giving birth to icebergs that drift into the sea, releasing nutrients that feed entire ocean ecosystems from plankton to whales. Yet this immense power is also fragile. As global temperatures rise, the ice melts faster, and the consequences travel outward, reaching shores that may never see snow. But Greenland is not only about ice. It is also about people who live at the edge of modern expectations, communities where plans revolve around weather, where color guides safety in winter, where history is preserved, not through spectacle, but through survival. This journey is an invitation to step beyond the edge of the map, into a world where nature is still the undisputed ruler. And as we move through Greenland, its capitals, fjords, glaciers, and farthest frontiers, we uncover a deeper question. What happens to human ambition when the land itself refuses to be conquered? Often described as the frozen heart of the Northern Hemisphere, the Greenland ice sheet is not merely a landscape, it is a planetary force. Spreading across nearly 1.7 million square kilometers, this immense body of ice dominates the island's interior, shaping not only Greenland's identity, but the balance of Earth's climate itself. From above, it resembles an endless, white desert. From within, it reveals a world in constant motion. The surface stretches toward the horizon, broken by deep crevasses that cut into the ice like luminous blue veins. These fractures expose layers formed over hundreds of thousands of years, each one a compressed record of snowfall, dust, and ancient air. Polar winds never cease here. They sculpt the snow into frozen waves, carrying with them a soundscape of isolation that has echoed long before human memory. This is where carving begins. At the edges of the ice sheet, pressure and gravity force ice outward into massive glaciers. With thunderous cracks, giant slabs break away and become icebergs towering, drifting monuments of frozen time. As these icebergs melt into the surrounding seas, they release mineral-rich nutrients that feed microscopic plankton, supporting a vast oceanic food chain that reaches all the way to whales. In this way, the ice sheet sustains life far beyond its frozen surface. Yet this colossal system is increasingly fragile. Rising global temperatures accelerate melting, thinning the ice and sending fresh water into the oceans at unprecedented rates. Each year, the ice sheet loses billions of tons of mass, contributing directly to global sea level rise. Coastal communities thousands of kilometers away are linked, invisibly but unavoidably, to what happens here. To stand at the edge of the Greenland ice sheet is to confront a paradox. It is both majestic and vulnerable, ancient and immediate. Press a hand against its surface, and the cold strikes instantly sharp, corrective, reminding you how briefly humans belong in this environment. Scientists drill deep into the ice, extracting cores that read like chapters of Earth's autobiography, revealing past climates and offering warnings for the future. The Greenland ice sheet is not silent. It speaks through movement, collapse, and flow. It reminds us that this distant, seemingly untouched wilderness is deeply connected to the fate of the modern world. What happens here does not stay here. It travels, melts, and reshapes the planet we all share. Nuuk does not look like a capital in the way the world expects one to. There are no highways funneling traffic into the city, no skyline competing for attention, no illusion that human design comes first. What you notice immediately is how small it feels against its surroundings. Mountains rise quietly behind it. The sea presses in from nearly every direction. Nature never steps aside. This is where Greenland is governed, yet governance here exists within clear limits. Modern concrete buildings stand shoulder to shoulder with wooden houses painted red, blue, and yellow colors, chosen not for aesthetics, but for survival. In winter, when snow erases edges and distance, color becomes orientation. It tells people where they are, where shelter begins, and where safety can be found. Even in summer, those colors remain, a reminder that Nuuk grew from necessity, not ambition. Nearly a third of Greenland's population lives here, yet the city never feels crowded. Life moves at a pace set by the environment. People sense the weather before checking a forecast. Plans shift with wind, ice, and light. In winter, darkness stretches endlessly, and Nuuk glows from within street lamps, kitchen windows, quiet routines holding back the cold. In summer, the sun refuses to set, and time loosens its grip, blurring the boundaries between day and night. Nuuk is a place of overlap. You might pass a government office on one street, then see fishing boats unloading on the next. Snowmobiles and cars share narrow roads. On clear days, humpback whales surface just offshore, close enough to be seen from land, as if the city itself were only a temporary guest along the coast. What defines Nuuk is not what it has built, but what it has accepted. The city does not attempt to dominate its landscape, it adapts to it. Modern life exists here, but it bends rather than resists. Technology, tradition, and survival coexist without hierarchy. Nuuk offers a quiet lesson in scale. It shows what a capital looks like when power is modest, when progress respects limits, and when human presence is measured against something far older and far larger. In Greenland's capital, nature remains the constant authority, and the city endures by listening. The National Museum of Greenland does not overwhelm with size or spectacle. It sits quietly in Nuuk, modest in appearance, almost easy to pass by. Yet inside, it holds some of the most intimate and unsettling records of human life in the Arctic. This is not a museum of triumph. It is a museum of survival. Its most renowned exhibits are the Kilakitsok mummies, 3 women and a child laid to rest more than 500 years ago, preserved not by intention but by cold. The Arctic kept its promise. Skin, hair, clothing, and even facial expressions remain intact, offering an unfiltered window into early Inuit life. There is no drama frozen into their faces, only calm, preparation, acceptance. Their fur garments still hold their shape. Stitching remains visible, precise, and deliberate. Every detail speaks of people who lived without expectation of rescue or remembrance. Life here demanded readiness for darkness, for isolation, and for whatever came next. Death was not an interruption, but part of a known cycle shaped by the environment. What makes these mummies powerful is not how old they are, but how close they feel. Time collapses in their presence. 5 centuries later, the same cold that sealed them continues to shape daily life outside the museum's walls. The distance between past and present feels unexpectedly thin. Beyond the mummies, the museum traces Greenland's layered history, Inuit tools, shaped for hunting and travel, Norse artifacts from vanished settlements, and objects that reveal constant adaptation rather than conquest. These are not relics of expansion. They are evidence of endurance. Each item reflects a deep understanding of limits. How much to take, how far to move, when to stop. Inside the museum, time slows. Outside, Nuuk continues with modern rhythms. Phones buzzing, traffic moving, schedules unfolding. But within these walls, a different tempo persists. One defined by seasons, scarcity, and knowledge passed down without writing. The National Museum of Greenland does not ask to be admired. It asks to be understood. It reminds visitors that survival in this land was never guaranteed by strength or technology alone, but by respect for nature's authority. In preserving these quiet stories, the museum holds something rare, proof that human identity can endure without domination, rooted instead in humility, preparation, and balance with a world that offers no second chances. Kangerlussuaq feels less like a destination and more like a threshold. Set deep inland at the end of a long fjord, it serves as Greenland's primary gateway to the outside world, anchored by the island's largest international airport. Most travelers pass through quickly, unaware that this quiet settlement occupies a uniquely strategic and symbolic position within Greenland's vast interior. Originally built as a U.S. military base during the Cold War, Kangerlussuaq was designed for strategy rather than comfort. That legacy remains visible. The infrastructure feels utilitarian, purposeful, stripped of decoration. Yet, when military ambitions faded, the place did not disappear. It adapted. What once served global tension now supports scientific access, exploration, and connection. Unlike Greenland's coastal towns, Kangerlussuaq sits in a more stable continental climate. Clear skies are common, making it one of the best locations on the island to witness the northern lights. Winters are cold but dry. Summers can feel surprisingly mild. This relative predictability has made the region an essential logistical hub, where flights arrive reliably even when coastal weather turns hostile. Kangerlussuaq also holds a rare distinction. It is one of the very few places in Greenland where the ice sheet can be reached by road. From here, a gravel track stretches inland, gradually leaving behind tundra and rock until the landscape turns white and endless. The road does not announce the transition. There is no gate, no monument. One moment you are standing on land, the next on ice older than any settlement on the island. The surrounding wilderness reinforces the sense of being on nature's terms. Musk oxen roam the nearby plains, massive and prehistoric in appearance, moving slowly across open ground. Arctic silence dominates the space between sounds. Kangerlussuaq does not invite exploration with charm or beauty. It simply makes exploration possible, then steps aside. In this way, Kangerlussuaq embodies a central truth about Greenland. Infrastructure here exists not to conquer the interior, but to approach it carefully. The settlement offers access without promise, connection without control. It is a reminder that Greenland's heart does not open easily, and that reaching it requires acceptance of limits. Kangerlussuaq stands at the edge of human reach, quietly linking the modern world to an ancient, indifferent landscape. Beyond it, ambition fades, and the ice begins to speak for itself. Point 660 does not announce itself. There is no sign, no barrier, no ceremonial marker to signal arrival. The road simply ends. One moment, tires crunch over gravel and stone. The next, the world turns white and stretches outward without reference or scale. This is point 660, the quiet threshold where Greenland's last road gives way to the ice sheet. The ice beneath your feet is unimaginably old. Some layers formed hundreds of thousands of years ago, long before names, borders, or memory existed. Press a hand against its surface, and the cold strikes instantly sharp, almost corrective. It reminds you that this place was never meant to accommodate human presence. You are not early, you are late. There is no horizon here in the way we understand it. Sky and ice blur into one continuous field, erasing depth and distance. Direction becomes uncertain. Without instruments, movement would be guesswork. This is why the ice sheet has always resisted settlement, not because it is hostile, but because it is indifferent. Nearby, scientists work quietly, drilling deep into the ice to extract cores, long, frozen cylinders that read like chapters of Earth's autobiography. Trapped air bubbles preserve ancient atmospheres. Layers of dust record volcanic eruptions and shifting climates. Each meter downward moves further back in time, revealing how the planet breathed long before human industry altered its rhythm. Standing at point 660, it becomes clear that this is not a destination, it is a boundary. Beyond it, modern ideas of progress lose relevance. Roads stop, infrastructure ends, schedules dissolve. What remains is duration time, measured not in years or generations, but in millennia. The stillness is deceptive. Beneath the surface, the ice is always moving, flowing slowly under its own weight toward distant coasts, where it will eventually fracture into glaciers and icebergs. Even here, nothing is truly fixed. Point 660 offers no reward beyond perspective. It does not promise discovery, only understanding. It shows where human certainty gives way to planetary scale, where ambition softens into humility. This is the edge of the map, not because nothing exists beyond it, but because what exists there does not belong to us. At point 660, Greenland makes something unmistakably clear. The world does not need to be conquered to be powerful. Sometimes, it only needs to be allowed to remain vast. Russell Glacier announces itself before it fully comes into view. A sharp crack echoes through the air, sudden and unmistakable. Then, silence returns. Moments later, the sound repeats, ice fracturing under immense pressure, reminding you that this landscape is not still. It is alive. Rising nearly 60 meters high, the glacier's face stands like a massive frozen wall, streaked with deep blues and muted grays. These colors are not decorative. They are the result of time and compression, layers of snow pressed into ice over thousands of years. Every fracture, every scar records movement slow, relentless, and unstoppable. Unlike distant ice seen from afar, Russell Glacier allows close proximity. Meltwater pools gather at its base, reflecting the towering surface above. Without warning, chunks of ice break free and collapse into the water below, sending ripples across the surface. The sound is brief but powerful, carrying the weight of something ancient of giving way. What falls today may have been forming long before the first humans set foot on this land. The glacier feels unsettling because it refuses predictability. There is no rhythm to its carving, no pattern the human mind can comfortably follow. Standing nearby, you become acutely aware of scale, not only physical scale, but temporal scale. Your presence is measured in minutes. The glacier's existence is measured in millennia. Surrounding the ice, the tundra appears quiet, almost gentle by comparison. Reindeer often move across the landscape in small groups, heads low, conserving energy as they search for moss and sparse vegetation. Their movements are deliberate, shaped by generations of adaptation. Arctic foxes appear briefly, blending seamlessly into rock and ground before vanishing again. Wildlife here does not perform. It simply exists, synchronized with the land. Russell Glacier offers no sweeping narrative of conquest or exploration. It does not reward effort with comfort or clarity. Instead, it presents a confrontation with process, the slow mechanics of Earth reshaping itself. Ice advances, fractures, retreats, and advances again, indifferent to observation. To witness Russell Glacier is to understand that change in Greenland is not sudden, but constant. Collapse is not failure, it is function. The glacier is doing exactly what it has always done, long before it was given a name. In this place, nature does not need explanation. It speaks through sound, motion, and scale, leaving visitors with a single, quiet realization. Here, the world moves on its own terms, and it always has. Jakobshavn Glacier, known in Greenlandic as Semek Kujalek, is not simply a glacier. It is one of the most powerful moving forces on the island, a vast river of ice flowing relentlessly toward the sea. Advancing at an average speed of nearly 40 meters per day, it is among the fastest glaciers on Earth and one of the largest single contributors to Greenland's iceberg production. Here, movement is constant. The glacier's immense mass presses forward under its own weight, funneling ice from the interior of the Greenland ice sheet toward the coast. At its front, towering walls of ice rise from the water, fractured and scarred by pressure. Without warning, massive slabs break away in violent carving events. When they crash into the fjord below, the impact can be powerful enough to send shockwaves through the ground, sometimes registering on seismographs hundreds of kilometers away. These icebergs are not empty. Trapped within them are tiny air bubbles, sealed thousands of years ago, preserving samples of ancient atmospheres. Each drifting fragment becomes a moving archive, carrying compressed history into the open ocean. As they melt, they release fresh water and minerals that reshape marine ecosystems far beyond Greenland's shores. Semek Kujalek lies within a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized not only for its raw beauty, but for its scientific importance. Researchers from around the world monitor its flow, its thinning, and its retreat, searching for clues about how warming temperatures are altering polar systems. What happens here does not remain local. This glacier's behavior influences global sea levels and coastal stability on distant continents. Standing near Jakobshavn Glacier, scale becomes disorienting. Ice that took millennia to form disappears in moments. Sound arrives before sight, deep cracks, sudden collapses, and long silences in between. The glacier feels less like a landscape and more like a process unfolding in real time. There is no sense of drama imposed here, no need for exaggeration. The power of Surmek Kujalek lies in its inevitability. It moves because it must. It breaks because it cannot stop. And in doing so, it reminds us that Greenland's ice is not static scenery. It is an active participant in Earth's future. Jakobshavn Glacier reveals a sobering truth. The planet's most distant places are not removed from human life. They are deeply, inseparably connected, shaping the world whether we are ready to listen or not. Sisimiut, Greenland's second-largest city, stands as a quiet demonstration of how a community can grow without losing its center. Set along the western coast, it faces the open sea while leaning gently into the surrounding hills, neither turning away from the Arctic nor attempting to dominate it. Sisimiut has learned how to expand without breaking its own rhythm. For generations, this has been a place of movement and skill. Long before modern infrastructure arrived, Sisimiut was a hub for hunting, fishing, and trade, shaped by knowledge passed carefully between seasons. That continuity remains visible today. Modern apartment blocks and workshops stand beside older wooden houses, not in contrast, but in conversation. The city does not present itself as a clash between past and future. It allows both to coexist naturally. Fishing continues to define daily life here, not as a symbol for visitors, but as essential work. Boats line the harbor in summer, while snowmobiles take their place in winter. The tools change with the seasons, but the rhythm does not. What matters is adaptability. Sisimiut's residents understand that survival in Greenland has never depended on resisting change, but on responding to it with precision. Unlike many Greenlandic towns, Sisimiut is connected by road to its surrounding areas. This rare feature allows routes to extend outward rather than inward, creating a sense of openness uncommon in such a remote landscape. Yet even with this connection, the city remains measured. Growth has not accelerated ambition. It has reinforced balance. Weather governs everything: wind, snow, and light shape routines more than schedules ever could. In winter, the city tightens inward, conserving energy and warmth. In summer, life stretches outward under long daylight, activity expanding gently into the surrounding land. Sisimiut does not attempt to outpace these cycles. It moves with them. What makes Sisimiut remarkable is its quiet confidence. It does not perform its identity or romanticize its hardship. Life here continues because it works, not because it looks extraordinary. The city demonstrates that modern life in Greenland does not require abandoning the values that made survival possible in the first place. Sisimiut stands as proof that progress in the Arctic is not measured by how much changes, but by how much remains steady while everything else shifts. Ilulissat lives at the edge of constant motion. Perched along Greenland's western coast, the town looks out over waters crowded with drifting ice that never stops arriving, never stops leaving. Day and night, icebergs slide past its shoreline, some towering higher than buildings, others worn smooth by time and meltwater. In Ilulissat, movement is the background of everyday life. There are no roads connecting Ilulissat to other towns. Travel happens by boat, by air, or not at all. This isolation is not treated as a limitation, but as an accepted condition. Daily routines bend around light and weather rather than schedules. In summer, the sun barely sets, stretching time until sleep feels optional. In winter, darkness settles in for months, and windows glow softly against the cold, creating small islands of warmth in a frozen world. Houses cluster along the coast in muted reds, yellows, and blues, colors chosen to stand out against snow and ice. From a distance, the town feels fragile, as if it could be carried away by the drifting giants offshore. Yet, Ilulissat has endured for centuries, anchored not by concrete or steel, but by adaptation. Fishing remains central to life here. Work continues regardless of spectacle. Tourists arrive to photograph the nearby ice fjord, stunned by its scale and drama. Locals pass by with grocery bags, children trailing behind, unmoved by what others call extraordinary. For them, the ice is not an attraction. It is weather, it is geography, it is routine. What defines Ilulissat is its refusal to perform. Despite being Greenland's most visited town, it does not reshape itself for those passing through. It allows visitors to observe, but it does not slow its pace or alter its priorities. Life goes on with quiet consistency. The absence of roads reinforces a deeper truth. Here, connection is selective. Not everything needs to be linked, optimized, or accelerated. Some places survive precisely because they remain apart. In Ilulissat, the horizon is never still. Ice defines the skyline. Silence fills the space between sounds. And standing here, it becomes clear that remoteness is not always about distance. Sometimes, it is a deliberate relationship with the world, one that values continuity over convenience and endurance over spectacle. Ilulissat does not ask to be understood quickly. It asks only to be witnessed, moving steadily alongside the ice that has shaped it and will continue long after we are gone. Disco Bay is not defined by stillness, but by accumulation. South of the Nuussuaq Peninsula, this vast stretch of water becomes both a passageway and a resting place for some of the largest icebergs in the Northern Hemisphere. Born deep within Greenland's interior, these frozen giants drift outward, carried by currents, until many of them slow, ground themselves, and linger here in quiet suspension. The bay often feels like a silent maze. Fortress-like blocks of ice, jagged spires, and smooth domes rise from the water in endless variation. In sunlight, they glow a brilliant white. Where the ice is older and more compressed, it deepens into shades of blue, so dark they appear almost unreal. Each iceberg carries its own geometry, carved by wind, pressure, and meltwater over years of slow transformation. Because parts of Disco Bay are relatively shallow, icebergs can become trapped, creating dense fields that shift gradually with tides and temperature. The scene changes constantly, yet never hurried. Ice drifts, turns, fractures, and waits. The bay becomes both a staging ground and a graveyard, where ice pauses before continuing its long journey into the open sea. When summer arrives, Disco Bay comes alive in a different way. Humpback whales migrate north, drawn by rich feeding grounds formed as icebergs melt and release nutrients into the water. They surface and breach among the ice, their powerful movement cutting through a world otherwise defined by silence. Living muscle passes through frozen history, creating a vivid contrast between motion and mass. For local Inuit communities, Disco Bay is not scenery, it is sustenance. These waters have supported fishing and hunting for generations, shaping stories, skills, and seasonal rhythms. Knowledge here is practical and inherited: where to travel, when to wait, how to read ice, not as obstacle, but as signal. Standing at the edge of Disco Bay, scale becomes difficult to measure. The ice feels immense, yet temporary. The water feels endless, yet intimate. Sound carries strangely, sometimes absorbed entirely, sometimes echoing across the bay when a distant collapse sends a low, rolling thunder through the air. Disco Bay reveals Greenland's deeper logic. This is a place where life depends not on control, but on awareness, where survival means understanding movement rather than resisting it. In this drifting world of ice and sea, nothing stays forever, but everything leaves a trace. Echypsermia, often called the Calving Glacier, is one of the most visceral places in Greenland to witness ice in the act of breaking apart. Located north of Ilulissat, its massive ice front stretches nearly 5 kilometers across, rising abruptly from the fjord in towering walls that can reach up to 200 meters high. Here, the glacier does not retreat quietly. It announces itself. Sharp cracks echo from deep within the ice, sounding like distant cannon fire. Sometimes there are minutes of silence, sometimes only seconds. The warning is never precise. When collapse comes, enormous slabs of ice shear away from the glacier's face and plunge into the water below. The impact sends shock waves across the fjord, producing rolling waves strong enough to rock boats waiting at what is considered a safe distance. What makes Echypsermia unsettling is not just its scale, but its frequency. Carving happens constantly. Ice that took thousands of years to form disappears in moments, exposing fresh surfaces, brilliant blue, jagged, and raw. Each collapse is both an ending and a continuation, part of a cycle that has defined Greenland's coastlines for millennia. The glacier's surface is laced with deep crevasses, some so wide and dark they seem to swallow light. These fractures reveal the internal stress of a system always in motion. Nothing here is stable, even when it appears still. Beneath the surface, pressure builds, shifts, and releases without pause. In front of the glacier, the fjord becomes an unlikely gathering place for life. Oxygen-rich waters attract seabirds that circle overhead, alert to movement below. Seals often rest on floating ice fragments, calm and motionless, as if unaware of the violence unfolding nearby. Life here adapts not by avoiding danger, but by existing alongside it. Echypsermia offers no sense of drama crafted for observation. There are no platforms, no barriers, no attempt to soften the experience. Visitors are left to watch, listen, and wait, aware that the next collapse may come at any moment or not at all. This glacier embodies a core truth of Greenland. Change is not gradual in appearance, but constant in reality. Echypsermia is not melting away in silence. It is breaking, falling, and reshaping itself in real time. To stand before echypsermia is to confront the scale of natural process without mediation. It is a reminder that Earth does not change politely. It changes when pressure demands release, and it does so on its own terms. Rising sharply from the deep blue waters of the fjord, Uummannaq Mountain dominates the landscape with a form so distinct it feels intentional. Two jagged peaks meet at the summit, forming a shape unmistakably reminiscent of a heart. In Greenlandic, Uummannaq literally means heart-shaped, and standing here, it is easy to understand why this mountain has become both a landmark and a symbol for the entire region. At its base, the town of Uummannaq clings to rugged ground, a cluster of brightly painted wooden houses standing in quiet defiance of ice and rock. Life here unfolds in close proximity to the Arctic's extremes. The sea freezes, the wind sharpens, darkness stretches long in winter. Yet the town persists, anchored by traditions that have endured far longer than modern infrastructure. Fishing and hunting remain central to daily life. Small boats thread carefully through icy waters during the brief summer season. In winter, sled dogs take over, their barking filling the air with energy and movement. These dogs are not symbols of heritage for display. They are working companions, essential for crossing frozen terrain where machines often fail. Their rhythm defines the season, and their bond with hunters reflects generations of shared reliance. Above Uummannaq, the sky delivers some of the Arctic's most dramatic transformations. In summer, the midnight sun circles endlessly, bathing the mountain in warm gold for 24 hours a day. Icebergs drifting offshore catch the light and glitter like fractured mirrors. In winter, darkness gives way to the northern lights, green and violet ribbons rippling across the sky, casting an unreal glow over snow and sea alike. What makes Uummannaq remarkable is not its isolation, but its warmth. Despite the harshness of its environment, the town radiates a strong sense of community. Survival here has never been individual. It is collective, built on cooperation, shared knowledge, and respect for limits set by nature. Uummannaq exists at a rare intersection. Geological severity meets human resilience. Icebound silence meets lived intimacy. The heart-shaped mountain looms above as both protector and reminder, beautiful, immovable, and indifferent. In Uummannaq, the Arctic reveals one of its most important lessons. Endurance is not about resisting hardship, but about shaping life carefully around it. Here, the heart of Greenland, does not beat loudly, but it beats steadily, held in balance between ice, sky, and human resolve. Qaqortoq, the largest town in southern Greenland, appears at first like a careful arrangement of color against stone. Bright wooden houses step upward along steep rock above the harbor, their reds, yellows, and blues breaking the dominance of granite and sea. But the true identity of Qaqortoq is not found in its buildings. It is carved directly into the land beneath them. In the early 1990s, a local artist, Aka Haig, initiated an ambitious project known as Stone and Man. Instead of placing sculptures into public squares, artists from across the Nordic world were invited to carve directly into the town's granite boulders and rock faces. What emerged was not a gallery, but a conversation between human imagination and ancient geology. Walking through Qaqortoq becomes a quiet search. A thoughtful Inuit face emerges from rough stone near a path. A whale appears etched into rock beside a post office. Abstract symbols lie half-hidden, where children play and daily life unfolds. There are no fences, no plaques demanding attention. The artwork exists within the rhythm of the town, meant to be encountered rather than displayed. Granite here is unforgiving, dense, ancient, and resistant. Artists were forced to work slowly, patiently, allowing forms to emerge rather than imposing them. This process mirrors life in Greenland itself. Nothing yields easily. Meaning is shaped through endurance. Qaqortoq's relationship with art reflects a deeper philosophy. Creativity is not separated from survival or environment. It rises from the same ground that supports homes, streets, and harbors. The sculptures weather salt, air, snow, and wind, changing subtly over time. Erosion is not damage, it is collaboration. Beyond the artwork, Qaqortoq remains a working town. Fishing boats move in and out of the harbor. Shops, schools, and daily routines continue without performance. The presence of art does not interrupt life, it accompanies it. In a world where culture is often enclosed and protected from the elements, Qaqortoq offers a different vision. Here, art accepts vulnerability. It stands exposed to the same forces that shape human existence in the Arctic. Qaqortoq shows that expression does not require permanence to matter. Meaning can be carved into stone, then slowly altered by time. In doing so, the town reveals one of Greenland's quiet truths. Human identity here is strongest when it remains grounded literally in the land itself. In a quiet green valley overlooking a fjord in southern Greenland, the ruins of Halsey Church stand in stark, enduring silence. These thick granite walls, built in the 14th century by Norse settlers, are the best preserved medieval structures on the island. Roofless and empty, they remain upright after more than 600 years of Arctic wind, snow, and cold, long after the community that built them vanished. The construction itself is remarkable. Massive stones, some weighing several tons, were fitted tightly together with little or no mortar. The walls are nearly 1.5 meters thick, engineered for permanence in a land that offers none easily. Arched windows still frame views of blue water and distant hills, hinting at a time when European Christianity and northern exploration reached even this far edge of the world. Valsey is tied to one of history's most enduring mysteries, the disappearance of the Norse Greenlanders. The last known written record dates to the 14th of September, 1408, when a wedding was held inside this very church. After that, the historical trail fades. By the mid-15,000th century, the Norse settlements of Greenland were empty. Theories remain unresolved. A cooling climate during the Little Ice Age, collapsing trade routes with Europe, depleted soils from overgrazing, growing isolation. Perhaps it was not one cause, but many, accumulating quietly until survival was no longer possible. The stones do not confirm any answer. They simply remain. Standing among the ruins, the contrast is striking. Around the church, the valley is fertile, green in summer, calm and open. Sheep graze nearby. Water moves gently through the fjord. Nature did not reject the Norse outright, it continued, indifferent to their absence. Valsey does not tell a story of sudden catastrophe. It tells a story of limits, of a society that carried familiar ways of life into an unfamiliar environment and slowly reached the edge of what adaptation would allow. The ruins endure because stone outlasts strategy. They remind us that survival in Greenland has never depended on strength alone, but on flexibility, on the ability to change when the land demands it. Valsey Church stands as a quiet warning written in granite. Even well-built worlds can disappear if they stop listening to the ground beneath them. Igaliku feels like a contradiction, carved gently into the Arctic. Tucked at the end of a quiet fjord in southern Greenland, this small settlement opens onto rolling green fields, an image more reminiscent of rural northern Europe than the world's largest island of ice. Here, soil exists, grass grows, life slows into something unexpectedly pastoral. Yet, Igaliku is not an accident of geography. It stands on the remains of Gardar, once the religious and political center of Norse Greenland. In medieval times, this valley held a bishopric, stone buildings, and ambition carried across the sea from Iceland and Europe. When the Norse disappeared, the land did not. It waited. The modern story of Igaliku began in 1782, when Anders Olsen, a Norwegian trader, and his Inuit wife, Tuperna, chose to settle here. They reused red sandstone from the ruins of Gardar to build early homes, blending Norse remnants with Inuit knowledge. The result is architecture that feels grounded, warm stone against vast mountains, continuity rather than replacement. Today, Igaliku is home to only a few dozen people. Sheep farming defines daily life. Along the Old King's Road leading into the village, green fields stretch outward, dotted with white sheep grazing between weathered stone walls. In summer, the valley hums quietly with insects and wind. In winter, it retreats into stillness. Life here follows the land, not the clock. Seasons dictate work. Soil dictates possibility. There is no rush to expand, no attempt to extract more than the valley can offer. Farming in Greenland is not about abundance. It is about balance. What makes Igaliku remarkable is not its beauty, but its restraint. It represents renewal without denial. A community grew here not by ignoring the failure of the past, but by learning from it. The Norse tried to impose a familiar world, The people of Igaliku chose to adapt instead. Standing in this valley, with ruins behind you and sheep ahead, time feels layered rather than linear. Past and present occupy the same ground, neither erased nor dominant. Igaliku shows that human presence in Greenland can endure, but only when it listens carefully to the land it rests upon. In a country defined by ice, Igaliku is a pocket of green that carries a deeper message. Survival here is not about resisting the Arctic, but about finding the rare places where cooperation with it becomes possible. As the journey through Denmark draws to a close, what lingers is not a list of landmarks, but a quiet understanding. From the ordered calm of Copenhagen to the wild edges of the Faroe Islands, each place has revealed the same underlying principle, expressed in different forms. Denmark does not seek attention through scale or spectacle. Its strength lies in restraint. Power operates openly. History is preserved without being frozen. Nature is respected rather than controlled. Even at its most strategic borders and most remote frontiers, the kingdom chooses balance over dominance. This is why Denmark occupies such a unique place in the global imagination. It offers a vision of modern society built on trust, patience, and long-term thinking values that have become increasingly rare in a world driven by urgency and competition. The idea that the world might want to buy Denmark was never about land. It was about a way of thinking, a system shaped slowly, protected carefully, and sustained through collective responsibility. Denmark reminds us that true wealth is not measured by how much a nation controls, but by how thoughtfully it chooses to exist. Sometimes, progress does not mean moving faster. Sometimes, it means knowing when to stand still.